Hey guys, welcome to the Top Dog season 1 week 8 of this is our last week for our series of games for StarCraft 2. For our last series of games, we have Team Elite versus Team2Pro. My name is Blazemos, and I'll be casting these games today. Unfortunately, Slicer will not be able to attend, so we'll be casting these games through the entirety. For those of you that's joining us for the first time, although this is going to be our last week of the year, in fact, for StarCraft 2. In terms of the NA side, we're going through a process right now, which is as of the 8th week. All these players have been playing against each other since the first week, so to speak, and now they are the total amount of points. In terms of these two players or teams that we have, Team Elite has 12 and Team2Pro has 26, and they're just going to be competing for the last few points that they could possibly earn. Now, in this set, we have 5 total games that we'll play with 10 unique players. Each of them will be competing against each other to add to a point for their clan itself. And they'll be playing on the maps that we have already vetoed and assigned, which will be Akalon Wastes, then Belshire Vistage, Derelict Watcher, Yonsu, and then Frost. So the 2 maps that were vetoed will be Polar Night and Whirlwind. And our first 2 players are in the lobby right now. We're going to have a TVP established on Akalon Wastes. And we are just about ready to get underway. For those of you watching us through Twitch chat, this is going to last for about an hour and 30 minutes. And the countdown has begun for our first game. And here we go. All right, so like I said, the first map's going to be Akalon Wastes. This is going to be a TVP. And for this map, I'm going to introduce the players in a couple seconds, as long as it permits. This isn't Akalon Flats. This is actually Akalon Wastes. I want to make the difference in this. Akalon Flats is an extremely old map. That was a long time ago, even though I still keep bringing it up. And on the top left corner of the map, we have our Protoss player. His name is The Truth. And on the bottom right corner of the map, we have our Terran player. His name, I'm going to call him Barcode just to make it a little bit easier on myself. I don't exactly know what his name is, and we may be able to find out eventually, but for right now, I'm just going to curiously call him Barcode. So as we're going to be on Akalon Wastes, the watchtowers are on the sides of the map. That's going to be able to help both players in terms of medevac drops and also warp prisms that are used throughout the course of the game, contrary to having, let's say, your obs in position. But at the same time, we also have, rocks in the area to actually block any sort of, expand timings or whatever, just to verify whenever that's taken, and also defend it. So in this case, it's not a ZVP, so both players have a decent advantage in blocking those off. And both players also just, introducing each other, making sure it's a legit match, so to speak. Nothing too odd or out of the ordinary at the start of the match. No shenanigans, no probe pulls, no SCV pulls, going halfway across the map, trying to proxy unusual tech timings. As we noticed in this matchup, I think common ones for Protoss will be any sort of proxy stargates that are going on, and while the Terran focuses more on getting his Reaper proxied. As we notice, our Barcode player is taking a lot of time to micro his supply depot. It's very important that you warm up your hands, so this is a good example of doing so. As our Protoss player is taking both of his assemblators to be able to get his gas a little bit early. This may indicate that he's trying to go for a tech-oriented build, or you can just decide, I have my own style of actually taking 2 gas at the start of it, and, that's what he's focused on. Different players have their own ways of, being stylistic about it. Well, a Reaper is being produced by our Barcode player, and the probe is actually going to go all the way over there and probably scout the Reaper as soon as it shows up over there. But unfortunately, Probe is actually not going to intercept that, as a Cybernetics core is being produced by our Protoss player. not opting to take too early an expand, actually focusing a lot on gas, and there goes the CC first by the barcode player as the Reaper is going out to scout what's going on. I think the priority for this Reaper will be solely to figure out whether or not the Nexus is actually getting established as a Twilight being produced, and as the cards are going to be played together, the Reaper will probably identify that, and I'm not sure if the Truth is going to try to give it and do something alternative. The Pro is obviously hidden way down here to proxy whatever tech that's going to go on, but I don't think this is going to be too successful, as the standard build of what the barcode player is doing will probably be able to see this, as even a second and a third barracks being produced by Terran in this case. Not putting too much effort on his supply depot anymore, as the DT Shrine is being placed on the bottom of the map. I'm pretty sure this will get scouted, as the way that this Reaper's going right now, it'll probably be able to identify it. So, in the truth, I think the scenario for him, he needs to find out some sort of backup plan. He needs to still incorporate the usage of even putting down a proxy robo and showing it. That's kind of strange. I think that would be something you would cancel. But I mean, he is spinning. He's spinning out his Reaper, just, saying, I see your building, I'm going to go for it really early. But at the same time, as soon as that DT Shrine finishes, I think he either needs to incorporate it, get some sort of unit produced from it, so that way he was at least able to reap the advantage and try to transition from it. Protoss' goal in this case would be try to get some sort of use out of that building. Otherwise, all this tech that's going to be committed over here is not going to have too much use. It's basically putting him way, way behind at this point. Really good position by our barcode player in this case, because he's already got his CC established, whereas the Protoss player doesn't have that. And even though this DT Shrine is taking forever to being produced, he is opted to cancel it. And I almost feel like he could have canceled that Robo too. So he still has his Twilight, and he is getting charged. Good backup plan by him to actually be focused on trying to get something out of the tech buildings he produced. Commonly, players will just abandon something or just, go into a different course from there, as the forward bunker is being produced. Good safe bet for him to understand that he may actually get forward pressure behind this. And the Reaper still has the potential to figure out if this is coming. As we look in his vision right now, I don't think he, sees any sort of forward nexus, and that may be the next thing that he's going to be focusing on. So he's going to go halfway across the map. In the process of that, he's also going to create a factory so he can start working up his tech from there. Marines are going to fall back, and a little bit of forward units established by our Protoss player as the Reaper goes up, and he just barely scouts the Nexus being produced at the nick of time. So now he knows it's not necessarily going to be an all-in build, even though the second bunker that he is produced is a little bit of a safety net because he's able to establish his natural. He does scout the main base, he does identify what is going on, but not too much has changed within the past 2 to 3 minutes by your Protoss player. Although missile turrets are being produced, I feel like this is a little bit overzealous because there is no Dark Templars. I don't see any at all. But actually, there is a Nexus cancel, as I noticed the units going half across the map. The Reaper does spot it, so he is totally prepared to hold this off, and there were no bunker salvages in this case. So the forward pylon is going to start warping in units, but full production being established by our barcode player. He's already had 3 bunkers, or excuse me, 3 barracks this entire time, even a few SCVs being pulled. In terms of economy, there is just, he's in a really good position. I'm not sure what this can, any damages is actually going to accomplish. I feel like maybe Blink teching that and going around or something would have been a little bit of a safer choice, instead of doing a frontal assault like this as a third bunker is being produced. First zealot coming in, and here comes the attack, and there's only 1 sentry here in terms of denying, but that first bunker is just immediately taken out, and some of the units are being focused, but the Truth's being a little bit hesitant here on what he's trying to do. He killed a bunker, but that other one, he's not going to catch a mistake twice in terms of this attack. He's not going to say, SCVs are going to miss repairing the second time. So another bunker is being created, and, the minor economy advantage that is going on with these mules that just got dropped is slowly going to get the barcode player ahead over the course of that. As the Truth gets himself out of his supply block, the Terran does realize that, there could be a Blink Stalker pressure going on behind this, so he does place a bunker inside of his base, but unfortunately that's not what's going to occur. Just by having this forward defense, several of the Marines are actually picking out off of all the Zealots going on right now too, so that's a ton of damage loss. And every few units that the Truth loses, it's like he doesn't have as much economy to back up against. More pylons. This is a total committal. How many times have you seen pylons that are, halfway across the map? And here comes the next engagement. This could definitely decide it, as most of the Zealots are trying to focus in on the Marauders first, but there's just so many Terran units here and even some dancing going on. This is the disco, and there's nothing, holding off back this shining ball that the Barcode has in terms of a lead that he has going on with his economy, and he does realize that as an armory is being produced. So there is just lots of defense everywhere, and the Truth is not fully committing in this case, as he's still got a few units, but I don't think this bust is actually going to work, and he's not going to fall back from it. He's just totally committing to this. Now he actually catches a part of the composition out of position that he actually goes across the map, and then he falls back. Couple bunkers going down, but oh man, this is really close. But unfortunately, there's just tons of damage going on right now, and even force fielded the ramp, which actually traps himself in. That was a very confusing move. But expect GG in a couple of seconds, because there's just no more units left as Team2Pro takes that game 1. So what actually went on during that game is pretty much a standard build occurred by the Terran player, and there wasn't too much hidden, so to speak, because as soon as he saw Twilight, he pretty much knew what was going on. A little bit better of a choice would have been to proxy maybe his Twilight instead of just show his Twilight, and then that would have tested whether or not the Terran player's game sense was there in terms of seeing there's a lot of gas, but seeing there was no actual gas committed. Whether or not he knew that or not really didn't matter too much, because he saw the Dark Shrine as he scouted it around the map, and there was a choice to try to expand, but Terran already made 2 bunkers, so it's going to be really tough to actually push there. So even the bunker setup in the back was also a really good secondary decision in case there was Blink Stalker being researched, which he would never be able to figure out until he actually saw Blink. So we are going into the second game. This is a good time to point out that we're actually going to be doing a charity stream on the 2nd of November, which is going to be this Saturday. We're actually going to be having a 25-hour stream sponsored by Thunderdogs, and also totally throwing that extra life out there and trying to get people to do a fundraiser for people across the world that actually need the money to supporting them. We're going to be actually playing StarCraft 2, Borderlands, League of Legends, Hearthstone, and Dota 2 games. And there will also be several giveaways every couple hours of beta keys that are going on. If you put 2 and 2 together, I don't exactly know what beta keys they were, but since we're playing Hearthstone, they may have some connection to it. But it's definitely, we're sponsoring the game itself, so obviously the games are being supportive of the players trying to raise money for a fundraiser. So come check us out. Come take the time to watch our games. There's several other people trying to do the same thing also, so we can all put ourselves together and contribute to support a good thing for the community itself. And we're going to be doing our second map on Belcher Vistage LE. And we're just getting our 2 players established. So for those of you that you want to actually come up with your own team and play in tournaments like this, there's actually several other teams that are actually playing their games right now. Unfortunately, they're not casted unless they are casted within their own streams and their own casters. So if you have your own team, whether it's from NA or whether it's from EU or whether you're playing League of Legends or Dota 2, we have several tournaments that are getting ready to be established for those. So if you want to get noticed, or you have a team together that's ready to actually play competitively, and it could be tomorrow or next week or whatever, just signing up for a tournament, you can actually sign up your 5 players and a couple of subs for StarCraft 2, so to speak, on the Thunderdogs website, and you can get yourself going for the next season that will occur in January. That'll be season 2. In this case, this is season 1. So we'll be doing this as every season, so to speak, for 8 weeks. So come out and play competitively StarCraft 2, because it's an amazing game and everybody likes learning about it. But for the next game that we're going to have, if I look at this correctly, we have a Zerg player that's going to be playing, and looks like, we're waiting for the team captain from the Team Elite side to decide their player. Belcher Vistage is a very small map, unlike Akalon Waste, which is more of a medium-sized map. For Belcher Vistage, there's kind of corners on the map, and then there's also fewer bases to take. So the fourth and the fifth has to be, you have to put a little bit of priority into whether or not you take those. There's even some courageous players that actually take their sixth on their opponent's fifth, and they try to deny gas or even deny minerals on those bases. We see some players do that solely because of the fact that they've established their map dominance. So they're trying to already end the game quicker instead of giving your opponent every sort of advantage. It was kind of like that for Daybreak. If you took your opponent's fifth, or you took the wrong sixth, and you were like, man, why is he doing this or whatever? Because the way the ramps were set up. In this case, the forward ramp can actually be more of a defense mechanism if you actually hold it and actually put static defense there. So we're going to see if those actually get utilized in play. And considering the fact that the rocks in the center, those are also more of a map confidence measure, whether or not you're pushing across the map and you realize I can get across the map quicker. Although I've rarely seen those rocks taken down. More like sometimes it's kind of in the way thing where it's like I'm just going to take them down anyway, but nobody actually goes through the center unless there's you can establish attack patterns from different sides just by taking a shortcut through the center of the map. All right, so we're going to take a commercial break. We're going to be playing a Carbot video, so I hope you enjoy the commercial that we're about to play. All right, so we're in the lobby for our two players, and we have our two players. Is going to be a ZVP on Belcher Vistage, and it's going to be loads of fun. Hopefully, there isn't going to be any confusing things going on as the countdown for the game is established. And 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Here we go. Right. So here we are on Belcher Vistage, although we are waiting for a loading screen because loading screens are amazing. Luckily, we don't have any computer issues going on, so that is definitely a huge plus going on for our matches so far. Hopefully we'll go on for the remaining 4 that we have. And here we go with the players. On the bottom right corner of the map, we have our Protoss player from Team Elite. His name is SK2 Parting. And on the top left corner of the map, we have our Zerg player from Team2Pro. His name is Zerg Zing Zing. Now, the reason why I pointed out part of the things on the map is to attribute to the fact that there are also other things going on. This time we'll specify for the matchup. Commonly in this matchup, we notice the 3-pylon block going on that some players resort to, and that's why I pointed it out, because Bell-Shared Vistas is one of those examples where somebody could get creative with cannon rushing. So it's really dependent on whether or not you actually see it being set up, and then transition into a really wonky 2-base, 3-base game, and then it just blows out of proportion. Everybody's like, man, how did you do that, or how do you deal with it? So unfortunately, SK2 Parting is actually putting a pylon inside of his base, so that may indicate that he's either going to do a forge inside of his base, or he's just trying to gateway expand inside of his base, one of the two. Commonly for the forge inside of his base is basically just to hide his upgrade timing if he decides to do that and hopefully block the scout. But even if he were to go forge and then try to cannon rush, the Overlord is trying to get in a position to block it off. As, man, several probes being queued for Parting. I think this may even be a Nexus first, now that I'm starting to look at it from the probe's perspective. And yeah, he's saving up tons of money right now, so it's going to be a Nexus first. As willingly enough, our Zerg player is actually going hatch first, so he seems really confident to hold off against cannon rush just because he does have this Overlord here. And even vying for the 3 hatch before pool. So our Zerg player is definitely really competent in terms of dealing with cannon rushes. But the second, there it goes, there's the forge inside of the base. So it's a little bit more convenient. I guess Parting does not assume that he's going to get 6 pulled, so he's not scouting. He's not, putting his pylon on his natural or anything. So it seems pretty willing to actually hold off. Even if it was, he's probably put his cannon inside of his main. But the 3 hash before pull is a super greedy build if he does not do his normal forge fast expand timing. And he is able to get all of his queens out on the same time, although I don't think the 3rd queen will be instantly produced. If it was, it definitely would go for creep spread first instead of focus on injects, because you can't afford 3-base injects off of 1-base economy, which is what he has currently. He probably will have that if he immediately makes queens. So Protoss player is definitely trying to create a standardized defense because he didn't get cheesed. He does put the gateway in front, and his upgrade timing will be kind of skewed. And he is taking both of his gases right now, so we're going to determine whether or not he is going to focus on that first and go from there. Probe is scouting to verify if he does have 3 bases, so he doesn't assume he's getting Roach all-in. Even Swarmhost all-in off of like 2 base has been something. I've watched replays over Guitar Cheese doing that kind of a build, and it really just focuses on getting a 2-base production going with the gases, and then immediately camping outside of the base with Swarmhost, and then just going from there. So there's several different ways to work around it. Even though you get cannon rush, there is make roaches and end the game. There's substitutes that are being created. People are getting creative with it, not necessarily focusing on just going to the front and then saying, hey, what's up, Void Rays? There's other ways around it. So there goes a +1. It's actually really, really early, and it's not going to be noticed at all unless these Overlord, which is totally on top of these probes right now, actually decides to move over there in that direction. So we're going to see if Zerg Zing Zing could actually anticipate what kind of a build's coming. He may even just stare at the gas and realize what's coming. I don't know what kind of game sense he has. Everybody's game sense for the right now metagame was kind of different. Everybody knows their own things. 2 gases being put down for Parting, so it may seem like he's going to go into more of a tech-oriented build. Not too sure which one it's going to be yet, but we'll find out momentarily. Zealot picking off the lane, trying to get map control. And then basically just, several drones being produced by our Zerg player. Noticeably not taking his gas immediately at 6 minutes. He's been banking up that 1 gas for the probably past 2 minutes ever since he started getting speed. And he's just focused on drones so far. And there goes the Twilight. So you may just immediately go into +2. I think this is going to be like a +2 Blink Stalker all in. That's the first thing that comes to mind now that after I see this, the way this is established. And it's actually really good on this map solely because of the fact the way the third is designed. You know, it's going to be a really terrible angle if the Zerg, you know, gets crunched inside of it. And then if he has a few force fields established, he's going to, you know, be able to hold this off really well. But as I say that, Parting does take his third, and Blink is getting created in the process of this, as +2 is also. So whether or not he decides to show a bunch of stalkers or, you know, not show any gateways at all, Zerg Zing Zing is going to realize, hey, that's a super early third. He is going to pressure with 30 lings, which is a pretty normal thing to do after that because he needs to show units, and lings are extremely cheap. So whether or not he splits them off or not will be deciding factor from there. The cannon is fully blocked off, and the mothership core is in position to cast his photon overcharge, but it does have about 30 seconds left. Is that going to be enough time to actually do that, though? There's just nothing here, tons of lings, and there is only one gateway that's going to warp in the Zealot. That's not going to do enough damage for this. This is going to be a cancel by Parting, and it's going to put him really, really far behind. Really good position so far by Zerg Zing Zing, even taking a fourth behind it. I feel like the most reliant thing he's going to do right now, which is what he's doing, he's going to put down several gateways, and he's probably going to focus on doing a blink attack at this point. He has two already being established, but there's just nothing preventing those from being defended. Man, he just caught him off guard in this case, as a Hydra Den is being produced, and several sentries are still being created, even two more gateways being produced. Looks like the most reliable thing he's going to be able to do in this case. He even warped in 2 Zealots instead of Stalkers. So instead of, you know, showing the Stalkers and showing the tech that what he's going to do, because if we look at his vision right now, he doesn't see anything at all. He has no idea that this is coming. He just looks like it's an early third with no tech. So he has the right, you know, sort of units being ready to be made, but we're going to see whether or not he focuses on building roaches. In this case, he's going to build Hydralisks instead. And he's still trying to take his third as a couple of force fields going down. And he does have the gateway count ready to go, but he's been warping in Zilts this entire time just to not show that he has the Twilight. Because there is +2 just barely created. He might have seen that actually. But so far, the usage of Blink has not been created yet, and it is close to the 11-minute mark. And several Stalkers are being created, but you know, Zerg has 3 base economy, and normally this attack would have already hit if it was a +2 Blink Stalker all in, but in this case there's a lot of hesitation going on solely because of that third. So the fourth even for Zerg Zing Zing is being established so far, as several drones has already been placed over there, and you know, the Parting's third is not even touched yet, as +3 is being established. And also the Infestation Den is being created for a reserve player. But, you know, probes getting transferred. I'd really like to see something from Parting, whether it's, you know, build a Warp Prism, try to do some sort of counterattack on this fourth. He needs to do something to get him back into the game, because just having that third disabled is, and you know, not doing anything at all is just going to give, you know, Zerg more leverage. He's already at 88 drones right now, and he's going to focus on trying to just get max Roach Hydra out at this point. And he may even commit to his Hive at this point. He does have total map control, so he does see if there's any sort of attack coming, but there is not even any pylons being established, not even any DT Shrine, you know, to be able to actually do some warp-ins in odd locations, because there is no Spore Colonies established so far. So the Twilight follow-up would have been really good if it was a DT Shrine, but I don't see anything at all. So Protoss units are moving across the map, but Zerg units at supply max are going to be able to intercept this as the Hydralisks move into position. Remember, this is not the entire Zerg army, as part of the units are going to be taken out, and force fields are really well, and most of the Zerg units are just basically caught out of position. So although Parting is going to take a pretty good engagement of about, you know, 1k, 2k resources out of that, he still has to deal with the other supply units that are getting established. I think it's for a flank that he's getting ready to do, but I just don't see all of his units. It just looks really small as several force fields getting put down. And Zerg Zing Zing is definitely trying to get a really good attack, but there's just, you know, when you look at it, it seems like he's losing this engagement, and it's because of the fact that he has 88 drones, and Protoss just, like, totally links forward and says, hey, you have, like, no units, what's going on? And here comes more of the forces from Parting, And although he has really good resource count, a lot of the units are still going to be taken out for parting because he just has more reinforcements coming in. So overall, at the first part of that attack, it looked like it was really, really bad, but it just turned out for Zerg Zing's favor, and he still has an incredibly high drone count for this late of the game. Definitely needs to get like some sort of counterattacks going, whether it's with Zealots, whether it's with a DT Shrine, whether it's with pylons and on parts of the map. He needs to really get those established if he wants to stay in this game, because the later tech is already being established. Hive is already done. Roach Hydra once again is currently maxed, and the Protoss just don't have enough leeway to actually get several units out as quick. There's no Colossus. There's basically just gateway units here. I mean, he could literally just go Ling Hydra against us. So currently, upgrades in terms of the Protoss player is 0-3, while the Zerg player is at 1-2, and even 2 armor and 1 melee is being established. Ling in position to detect whether or not the 4th and the 5th can take in, and just by seeing that, he realizes, I can actually do something. I need to start trading because I'm at a huge eco lead, and here comes the engagement. Force fields going down. Several of the Zealots are going to be instantly taken out, but upgrades here are pretty solid by our Zerg player. Even dancing going on, because that's totally necessary whenever you're in a supply advantage. So there is blink going on, but unfortunately, there's just not enough damage here, as the Overseer is basically just, totally moving out of the way. Ultralisk Cavern being produced. A little bit of laughing going on because, this is StarCraft 2, and it's a totally fun game to actually watch and cast at the same time. Creep spread even halfway across the map in the process of this game. There's just no 4th and no 5th by a Protoss player. There's no AoE to be able to actually kill these units fast enough, and that's why this is taking so long for the Protoss player to actually getting sort of decent damage dealt. So in the process of this, having 88 drones, he's probably going to be able to get several Ultralisks out, as 5 Queens are being produced at a time from the 5 hatcheries, and that's going to be used for transfuse for the Ultralisks. Like I said, there's just no sort of AoE. There's no, Templar archives. There's no robotics bay that was produced at all. It's almost like he's been on gateway tech for the past 17 minutes, which is what it was. Couple sentries being warped in, but those got immediately taken out. And there's just lots of, dilly-dallying left and right. It's almost like you're on a beat map and you're trying to hit all the notes. But since there isn't too many force fields, I think this composition is going to be able to get away. And Stalkers are just totally trying to get as much units before Blink going on right now. But I don't think he really cares too much that he lost all those units, because he has a 5k bank and a 2k gas advantage. He totally realizes he's in a really good position. He doesn't really care if he loses that supply, as he does have room now for about, I think it's 8 Ultras, if I'm not mistaken, unless I multiplied it incorrectly. No, it's actually probably around 10 or 11 at this point. And he does have the supply for it, and he does have the minerals for it. I think he's just waiting for Queens and upgrades. He's really patient about this. He's not immediately rushing to build his Ultras. He seems to just want to produce all of them at the same time, although I'm a little confused at a little bit of hesitation going on by Zerg Zing in terms of getting these units established. But like I said, Protoss is just not focusing on taking any other tech. He's had the same buildings his entire game. He's just no 4th, no 5th, and also no Robo and no Templar Archives. That would be the next step after that, to try to get Archons. And there goes the 11 Ultralisks, because pretty much all the supply he has room for, with the exception of the Queens being built. 4th finally taken out by our Protoss player, so that'll put his Zerg opponent on 3 base. But I feel like the resources stolen from this 4th base has already been a huge success for our Zerg player, as that was immediately taken at around 10-minute mark, and there's just literally 20 larvae sitting here. So here comes the engagement. Queens versus Stalkers. That's definitely a really good trade for the Stalkers in this case, because the Stalkers do about 5 more damage than the Queens do. But here comes the Ultralisks. They are decently upgraded, as several transfuses will now be implemented on them, but I don't feel like the amount of Stalkers here is definitely not going to be enough to deal with this. He's definitely trying to focus fire as many of them as possible, as even I feel wow, this is really odd. He's just basically moving his units into the Stalkers, he's just trying to use them as huge buffers or something. But as we notice that 8 more Ultralisks and 54 more Wings are being produced to be able to support that. So now they're actually going to have really good synergy, not like they already didn't have really good synergy. +1 armor being researched by our Protoss player, and there's still no 4th or no 5th trying to be established, whereas the Zerg player is taking his 4th and his 5th. And several Stalkers are on the edge of the creep. A little bit of trash talking going on right now. This is perfectly, just things that going on, basically trying to identify whether or not he is irritated at this point. But the Stalkers are just going to be taken out because there's just too many anti-Stalker units in this composition. I didn't know Queens could actually dance. This is something I learned today in algebra class. It's just, we're in one right now. Unfortunately, the Stalkers are still not really good against Ultralisks, so I'm a little confused on what sort of damage he can actually do. And if this game, starts to just drag out a little, I may just, get to the point where I'm trying not to actually cast the game, but I'm still going to try to cast the game because it looks like the Protoss is still trying to, press his advantage, even though he doesn't really have too much of one. So the 2 spires are being produced so far right next to each other. They're actually parallel, and the Stalkers are once again trying to engage, and he's going to be able to get tons of damage out. Hopefully this ends the game, because this pretty much looks like the Zerg is in a total advantage. He just has all the mineral resources that he can possibly get. And now that we've accomplished the, identification of the Zerg player winning the game, I'm gonna just drink some water real quick. All right, so I'm gonna go over what should have happened, and the focus of it should have been immediately as soon as this Twilight and the 4th was established, and this normally would have occurred in a map like this. As soon as this 3rd gets canceled, basically, SK2 parting should have immediately put down a DT shrine, and then he should have started focusing on taking the 4th. Try to get some DTs in there, trying to get some Stalkers in there. We even see some forward hatcheries going on right now, because there's definitely a huge advantage for Zerg. But the focus for Protoss should have been to try to deny these bases. There was just no spores established at all. Normally in a situation like this, Protoss would try to focus on trying to getting any sort of attacks going on from an alternative angle, focus on the main, focus on the 3rd, there's just nothing established, and just by creating that, puts a little bit more fear into the situation, instead of, just basically saying, I'm going to try to defend my 3rd, try to stay in the game, etc. As several cannons on the northern area of the map, or northeastern, whatever, are being created. And there's still tons of cannons being produced, or excuse me, tons of Ultralisks being pressured, as it almost is creating a wall, so to speak. Overlord speed is also being researched, so that'll be able to speed up the Overlords, so that way they can scout a little bit easier, although there was really nothing to scout in this case. Although I'm not sure about sentries against Ultralisks, because the force fields will probably get walked over in this case, so to make it really easy for, Ultralisks to be able to engage on sentries. And since they do only 9 damage against a 6 armor, that'll actually hit for only about 3 damage. And since Ultralisks have about 500 health, I think they trade at about a 25-to-1 ratio, in terms of they can probably kill like 25 sentries pretty easily. Even one Ultralisk can do that. A little bit of creep spread going on the 4th. Also a couple Lings. So he's able to verify, this is here. There's even a drone attacking the 3rd. Drones do a lot of damage too against pylons, even though the pylon doesn't have any shields on it. There's also tons of Overlords on the natural for the Protoss base, although the Protoss base doesn't exist anymore, so it makes it to the point where they can move stuff around a little bit easier. bunch of fake Archons were created. Since there's no Overseer here, it's probably going to look like it's real, although the way I look at it, it looks like they're actual fake Archons, but in this case they did 0 damage. Commonly, the hallucinations are used to bait Viper pulls, so you'll see a lot of players with their, even though they, their units are able to force field, they'll create a bunch of Colossus, so that way the fake Colossus will be pulled. A lot of the energy will be used incorrectly. Several cannons being produced by our Protoss player. Cannons actually do 20 damage, but unfortunately the Ultralists, they do 14. So they're going to take a little bit longer to actually get killed. Normally, if this would have been a cannon rush, this game probably would have looked a lot different, but unfortunately the cannon rush is going to be non-existent because Ultralists are being able to just, kill all the buildings. Maybe even that was something that could have been done too, considering there's a forge at the start. Expect GG soon. So Team2Pro takes that game. Really good decision making to maintain his fourth. That was the most important part of his defense in this case. And since there was no harassment going on in that fourth, he was able to get about 7,500 minerals and the 3K gas to be able to actually make the Ultralisk. So he's able to transition from there. So that takes the score to 2-0 in terms of Team2Pro being 2-0. And we're going to go into the third game, which will be on Derelict Watcher TE. So for Derelict Watcher, we don't know what the players are established so far, but we'll just go over the map itself. If I can look it up real quick. So Derelict Watcher, unlike Belcher Vistage, there's a little bit more open space in terms of taking bases. For the third, it's really easy to be able to get your bases over there and then actually defend the ramp. And then the fourth and the fifth from there will basically just be, whether or not you establish that you're getting ahead within the course of the game or whether you're falling behind. So whether that, they take their bases correctly, they can actually hold them will be a matter of map control and being able to be successful through the course of the mid games. That's why you see a lot of players through the beginning of the game and also the middle part of the game actually try to get their advantages throughout those parts instead of just saying I'm not going to really do anything. I'm just going to wait for my 200 engagement and then I'm going to be successful. Whereas you can try to accomplish the smaller victories throughout the course of the game, so that way you get to the late game, you actually have the map control and the ability to take your fourth and the fifth. So Derelict Watcher will be a good example on whether or not the players that will be playing will actually be able to do that. And we will be going into another carbot as we get our players into the lobby. So stay tuned for our next game.
Let's go! What is best? To crash the Zerg, see them driven before you, and hear the lamentations of the Protoss. Quiet! I'm trying to sneak up on them! Hammer up the guards! Yes! Hurry up and fix me, you idiot! Oh. Ragnarok, baby!
All right, so we're going to go into our third game. We have our players in the lobby. It's going to be a TVZ. So this is going to be a good example of, going through the beginning of the game, trying to get your advantages, and then going through the mid game and establishing your map control for the fourth and the fifth. And hopefully our two players, try to accomplish that throughout the course of the game. So that way they can go into the end game and actually, try to fight on, take engagements, take really good fourths and fifths, so that way they can actually hold them and actually get to that point. So as the countdown does begin, here we go. All right, so we're going to be doing a ZVT on Derelict Watcher TE. For those of you just joining us, this is our third game of our Thunderdog series. This is Season 1 for Week 8, and these players are competing for points. And currently it is 2-0 in terms of Team2Pro. They're currently up 2 games. Both of their games were really good offense and defense. And for the player introductions, we will now get underway. On the bottom left corner of the map, their team is currently down 2 games, so they can still turn all the way around with the next 3 games. His name is Thief. And for the top right corner of the game, showing us that he can be totally aggressive and showing that their team can also hold off really good attacks. His name is Access. So pretty much the priority will be to just hold the middle of this map, because there's going to be so many different attack patterns besides that. But I mean, the farther down you can get creep spread, or the farther down you can establish your forces on this map, will make it a lot easier to intercept more things, whether you have these watchtowers purely alone, or you can actually have creep spread across the map, or your marines are across the map over here. And I've noticed lately a lot of spine crawlers being produced. Some players, let's say for example, they have their creep spread here and they're getting forward Widow Mine attacked over here. They'll have their spine crawlers established right here just to buy time to be able to get either banelings out or to get a better engagement with infestors. As some players transition into infestors, they're able to actually defend their base a lot easier, solely because of the fact that they have the spine crawlers there, instead of saying, I have all my lings sitting here, hopefully he pulls them out of the way, and then a Widow Mine decides to attack them, and then that's totally bad. So spine collars are used as a secondary buffer. Axis electing to go into the gas first into Reaper, and Thief going into the hatch first. And this drone is like totally paranoid to trying to find the 2 racks. Although if he were to just go across the map and scout his main base, he probably would be able to see the 2 racks too, just based on the SCV count. So Axis is going to be able to get his Reaper out and hopefully be able to see something. Unfortunately, he's actually going to create a supply depot and wall himself in, but there is nothing to hide. Now, he is going for the Reaper, so he'll be able to actually commit his gas too early to the point where he won't be able to construct a factory early on. That's what some players do. They'll decide to actually block off their net. And that's what this drone is doing right now. He's patrolling the whatever's being produced out of here because he wants to make sure that it is a Reaper. And if he saw a Marine, he would actually, react to it by blowing off his ramp. So there he goes. He's actually going to go away and try to just delay this Reaper from going into the base. And, you may not actually understand the purpose of this drone and why it's creating an extractor. But when you get to the point where you're in these scenarios and you try to recognize these things without actually scouting his gas, that's what the intent of him is. It's not necessary to deny this gas. It's basically to verify that he's not, taking an early factory, taking an early starport, and trying to get those Hellions out at the 6-minute mark. Because 4 Hellions in your base will probably do a lot more damage than this one Reaper's going to do right now. He's going to kill a couple Lings, which is not a big deal. But if 4 Hellions were in your base at around 6 minutes, you probably would take a heavy drone loss because of that. And that's what the intent of that drone is. But other than that, this Reaper is just going to be able to verify that there isn't any early gas taken and there's no roach warren being produced. Second Reaper is going to participate in the festivities, but we're basically just waiting for Hellions to show up to try to deny this third. That would be the next objective of those Reapers from that point as the factory is being produced. This extractor is still here to be able to actually see the CC being produced. So that'll actually allow him to verify that it's not some, off-the-wall Marine all-in behind that. 2 gases being taken at 5:40, or actually 5:10, and then he actually got them done, so he's going to be able to get speed at a pretty manageable time. And this is going to be 3 Queens being able to pull. Third Reaper, oddly enough, being built, or was built, and there goes the factory. And another CCs, so this is going to be a triple CC into probably going to be bioplay from there. He may actually deviate if he wants to, although it highly unlikely that it'll occur. And a roach warren being produced, and that's odd. I feel like the way Thief is going to play this out is he's going to build some roaches. I don't think he's going to truly invest too much into just, mass roach against it, but obviously he hasn't really seen anything yet. He just sees the factory so far, which we can tell by the vision, because I thought he was able to see that, but unfortunately he doesn't. But there isn't too much being produced right now, so we're still waiting for the next few minutes. But yeah, the +1 indicates either I think he's going into a 2-base all-in, or he's deciding to just, use roaches as part of his attack force. These are one of these unorthodox builds that people will do to, try to throw off their opponent, to try to see if they, can force a specific response. And there is one Marauder being produced, and I don't think he sees anything, because he's just doing this for a safety measure. Hellions are still being created, even stim being created. 2 racks going down, so the engineering base should be a follow-up. There it goes, right there. So he does see that, so he does realize it's a pretty standard build, and these units will be able to try to attack the third, but unfortunately there is nothing going to be at the third. And I think the intent of this is that the roaches will be able to deny this attack force, so really smart by Thief to try to get this established. I think the point of it is he's just trying to get his upgrades a little bit early and guarantee that his third goes up instead of his, Terran plays this, typical build order, and he goes over there and he starts harassing the third, and the third goes down because there was so much damage being taken, but another 6 roaches being produced, so this attack is going to start, getting a lot of focus to be taken away, as even Lynx being has not been created at all. I really do feel like it's either it's either a play style that Thief is going to show us, or it's just a misread on what he scouted in terms of what Axis was. If you personally talk to your players, maybe they'll know more about it more than I do. As a caster, I'm basically just trying to figure out what's going on through the player's mind while he's doing this. He doesn't really see too much. He does see the 2 engineering base, so I mean, he has to know there's going to be a bio play. So I feel like this is going to be more of a stylistic thing that Thief does. It looks like he's going to do his pressure. Once Roach speed finishes, it's about 5 seconds away, and so this may catch him off guard. There is 2 Widow Mines, 3 bunkers in position, because he does see the Roaches. He does anticipate some sort of timing, and I don't know if it's going to accomplish too much. Supplies are relatively even right now, but there's just tons of Widow Mines, and I don't think there's an Overseer in position to actually deal with any of them. And here comes the attack. All these units are like literally just like, hey, what's up? Here we go. And a first bunker gets taken out, but all the SCVs get pulled in terms of a clutch decision-making by our tiered players. So this Roach attack is going to be held off. Overseer does participate, but at this point, he's just going to deny this third from being moved over here instantaneously. And I think that's the intent of this, is that he wanted him to set up his third, and if he saw that occurring, he would have catched him off guard with none of these Widow Mines here and just 1 bunker. And if we notice, that bunker instantly went down. So I feel like that was the whole purpose of what Thief was doing, but when he was scouting with the Reapers and Hellions, he realized there was a Roach War in there, so he defended his base. And the Spire is the follow-up and also +1 attacks. So in result of this attack, even though the third is a little bit delayed, he is going to be 1 upgrade behind, whereas his opponent is starting attack 2-2. So, you know, he's pretty much just going into his normal game, but unfortunately his third is taken extremely late. But at the same time, the Zerg third was taken a little bit late too. So if a standard third would have been taken, I feel like this would have done a ton more damage, and Thief would have been a little bit more farther ahead than he was at this point. But there was really good scouting by our Terran players, so it kind of basically prevented that from occurring. Macro hash going down by our Zerg player, and +1 attacks is actually going down. Nothing too changeable. There is a siege tank just in case it was a mass Roach build. So a little bit of a safety measure right there, but 2-2 is almost done. Both bunkers being salvaged, and the Terran Force is basically ready to say, hey, let's start establishing our Widow Mines. We're going to see how well Axis' control is in terms of splitting his Widow Mines. Commonly, we see players put them in a leapfrog fashion, similar to siege tanks, and splitting up their Widow Mines. So we're going to see if that's actually going to go down. Banelings being produced, a few Mutilas, and there's also several Roaches, but he's going to force an engagement really early, and all those Widow Mines just got like totally bypassed. Some of the Banelings got taken out, and some of them actually kill those Roaches, but overall, really good engagement by our Zerg player. All those Widow Mines were just totally caught out of position. They were just like totally ignored. So he just like moved on from there, and really good engagement by him. As even though the supplies are still even, creep on the 4th, and also the 1 siege tank is ready to hold off any sort of pressure. There's 20 links in production. I feel like he's going to press this issue and try to do another attack. And 2 more barracks being produced, and just barely the economy is being produced. This may do a ton of damage. A few Banelings being created, but I don't think he has the gas for as many Banelings as he actually wants to, as these guys are just like, hey, we're just really close to each other, but we don't want to attack. A little bit of flank being established, and there is 2 Mutalisks here, but they're just trying to cause a little bit of, you know, baiting attention, but unfortunately, Axis is not, or he's already aware of it. Here comes all the Lings. They're going to get a really good surround, as the medevacs are basically just forced to fly away. And this is going to be Team Elite's first win. They're going to be so excited to be able to take this game. He's got a huge edge at this point, 40 supply lead, as Team Elite takes that game. They take the series for 1-2 at this point. So that first attack, I think the whole the part of actually doing that was to delay the third and try to catch the Terran off guard, and he took his hatch behind that, and he still had decent upgrades, but then after he went into the secondary attack, you know, he just totally got out of position, and that was a huge mistake by Axis in that case, and then actually forced him to say, hey, I have Roaches, so if he keeps making Widow Mines, I still have the ability to do damage instead of, just throw away a bunch of Lings and then say, bam, I gotta start all over again. The Roaches were actually a secondary unit from that attack composition, so it's really good that he didn't focus on making, a ton of Roaches behind that, and he actually started transitioning from there, but he still had another method of dealing with Widow Mines in case that was an issue in terms of, massing out. So we're going to be going into our next game, and it's going to be on Yomsu LE. We're going to get our players established. And currently the score is 1-2, and this is our like literally last set of games. For those of you that have been watching us throughout the past few weeks, I appreciate the viewership that you've given us. We're going to be doing this in the next couple weeks, next 2 months, excuse me. So we're going to be doing this again quite soon. So if you want to play your games or set up your own team, you can also. That's what these players are doing right now. It gives them the opportunity to actually play against each other. Whether they practice enough on ladder, now they can actually display their skills and work their way up. So you see all these tournaments that are creating out, and these are all these sub tournaments that are possible. So that way you can get actual experience. Get yourself in there, get your nerves all settled. Get your build orders all ready, and so to speak. So you practice enough to the point where it's like you progress through this. Tier, I guess you could say, tiers from going from ladder to best of 3 to, competing against other players that may already actually recognize what you're doing. So that's what the importance of this is. So we are in the lobby right now, and it looks like we're going to have Team Elite's Flash, not to be confused with KT Rolster's Flash. We don't have the luxury of casting his games, unfortunately, versus, it looks like, Asylum. And it looks like, once again, if I'm estimating the probability of Flash being Terran and Asylum being Zerg, it looks like it's definitely going to be a ZVT on Yunsu. And as many times as I bring it up, it's like, floating your fourth over to your island base on the bottom right, corners of the map or whatever. I never see it actually occur. I think it's just because of the fact that games don't actually last that long. But we are verifying that the players are good, and hopefully we see some CC flying action, maybe even some odd things being placed because there's so many bushes here. And both players are ready and good to go. The races are verified, and it is going to be a ZVT. And the countdown is underway for our Game 4 of our Top Dog series in StarCraft 2 NA. Alright, so here we go for the 4th game of the series. Hopefully their loading bars are done, because they are. And on the bottom left portion of the map of Yonsu, we have our Zerg player from Team2Pro. His name is Asylum. And on the top right corner of the map, we have our Terran player from Team Elite. His name is Flash. So there are watchtowers in the center of this map. There's also a ton of bushes. Commonly, I haven't experienced it yet. There's supposed to be really good areas to actually put proxy T-Racks, but I don't get T-Racks on this map. I'm not sure why. I think it's because it's vetoed, so it doesn't ever happen. And as I say that, I think this is going to be a supply depot SCV. And nothing too unusual going on by both players. Looks like it'll be pretty gist of a game, but these fourths, I feel like the easier fourth to be taken is definitely without these rocks here. If the rocks weren't here, but it takes a lot of focus to just go over there and kill those rocks, whether it's around the 10-minute mark or whether it's after an engagement or whatever, and splitting off your rocks or your lings or your marines and then saying let's kill the rocks real quick. Although that would actually make engagements a little bit easier to defend, or a little bit more commitment. So then if you actually decided to go half across into the base, you'd be like, oh, I'm actually committing now at that point. And I think this is going to be a CC first by our Terran player, because he's saving a lot of minerals, and as soon as he goes up there, he may either just suspect that it's a CC first, but he's going to go in there and say, I need to get rid of this drone, but there's not much to scout. as several drones being pulled. I think he suspects this is a 2-ax, but he isn't scouting the gnats. This is a little bit of a mistake, as a little bit of a freak out occurred, but I think he just scouted the gnats. It was kind of a big mistake there. He probably should have. I don't know. I guess his scouting timing was a little bit late. If he would have scouted a little bit earlier, would have recognized it was a CC first instead of pulling those drones. So he just barely missed a CV going to the natural. So now this Overlord is going to verify that the barracks is extremely late. And that is actually going to force Asylum to make several drones and say, you know what, you're playing greedy, and I made that mistake, so I'm going to play even more greedy. And he actually 20 pulls. That's right, I just made up a new word, and it's called 20 pull. Everybody's going to start doing it now. Not 6 pull, not 10 pull, it's 20 pull. Normally you would actually probably go like a 16 pull after that. Mostly because you've seen the CC, but since he pulled several drones, he's trying to get his economy back up there, so that's why he did that. So he's just taking his gas, and a Marine is being produced, Marines, and then a bunker, so everything's going to be pretty normal. I feel like Flash is just going to verify that wasn't an early third. That probably could have been an alternative, but instead he actually decides to take a proxy hatch on his natural. This is going to expedite his creep spread on his natural, and at the same time it's going to give him a little bit more injects. Now, the risk of actually taking the third really early would have been the fact that he would have immediately stopped building SCVs, and then he would have just focused on making Marines at that point if he would have spotted it, because he did scout it afterwards. So that's the difference between just putting the third over there and then making the third a little bit more accessible. So he has his queens to support, he has his spine crawler to be able to support, and it's in a better position. So it's a little bit up in the air from saying take a forward third or take a third inside of your natural. So factory is being produced. Nothing too off the wall yet, basically just getting established. Not too much commitment to tech too early on. Probably only deviation would be, well, there is a couple of gases and actually an early layer being created. Instead of focusing on speed, he's actually getting an early layer. So I feel like he's going to go immediately into Spire and start Mutalisk production. He's probably going to take both of his Geisters here in the next 20 seconds. And his Overlord does verify it is a 3cc opener as the starport is being produced. So if this is immediately a Viking, he has a tad bit of a head start in countering Mutalisks, but he may just, he may just decide to go into Banshees behind this, we'll see. And judging by the tech lab being produced, really close to it, he probably will immediately start Banshee production. So if truth be told, this build order goes the way it should be going, this should put Zerg at a little bit of an advantage once the Mutalisks are produced, because any more Banshees that get produced will probably be immediately countered. And it's really just, there goes the uplift. And that's going to start Banshee production for our Terran player, and unfortunately, he's not going to like the fact that his Spire is getting made really, really, really early. Even the ability to make Overseers to be able to actually prevent any sort of Cloaked Banshees being produced. This is a lot of committed gas. So he's, I don't remember how much this costs. I can't click on it right now. So all that gas and stuff like that is just not going to do any damage unless, he puts total effort into trying to, get those drone kills from those really off-the-wall angles whenever the Mutalisks are out of position or whatever. But, he doesn't see the third, so he's got to be suspecting something. He does have a Hellion right on top of it. And he doesn't scout it, but unfortunately he does scout the Nat main, and he says, hey, there's an early layer, what is going on? And I think that will provoke him enough as he's taking a engineering bay immediately. So he's going to start making turrets. He does have the ability, if he actually made 2 more Hellions, to just go through and say what's going on with this tech, but I think he just, literally with his game sense will probably realize that it's going to be early Mutalisks because he's making 2 Widow Mines already. He should be able to hold this off with a relative ease, but Zerg will be able to get his Mutalisk count up really, really quick now because he took his Spire extremely early. Second bunker in position and 2 missile turrets being produced, so yeah, he does have pretty good game sense in terms of the build or the Asylum is doing. So third hatch being taken by our Zerg player and 13 drones being produced. a lot less lings being committed in this case. And the third is actually being forward pushed. And I don't know if I like this because there is like 3 Marines total. I don't know if 3 Marines are going to be able to kill 9 Mutalisks. In terms of where they're at, I'm totally lost right now. There they go. There's that Banshee I was talking about. In fact, it's been 2 Banshees, and both of their cloaks get exposed. So if there is no Spore on this third, that actually may force the Mutalisks to camp on their third now. As the Overseer is in position, and here it comes, those are going to be immediately taken out. So even though they did get 2 drone kills, even though it says 4 right now, I might have missed the other 2. That is just tons of gas that was basically just being wasted as a third Banshee is being produced. And that third is under fire. In fact, Asylum feels so overzealous that he's just going to go into the main and say, hey, there's a bunch of turrets here. I'm just going to start killing Widow Mines. And there's just no Marine count. I think he realizes that just by killing that 1 Marine. So he's going to harass this third now. And that third's going to be forced to fly away back to the main as 7 more Mutalisks being produced. And he's going to try to capitalize on that as the Overseer is still ready to say, if, there's Widow Mines in position, they're going to go down. And now he's basically just abusing this Glaives as, man, no Marines whatsoever. If you look at the Marine count right now, it is currently 2. Normally at this point in the game, you probably would be around 15 to 20. But the 2 Marines right now are in this bunker, and that might actually be a really good trade if he actually took that. But I don't think he knew how many Marines were inside of that bunker. So he's just going to go back and say, I'm going to go develop 4 more Mutalisks, and a really good position so far by our Zerg player. He's got map control over everywhere. He disabled the third. He's going to verify that the third on the left is not taken. Scan goes down on... I can't figure out where that's at. I won't know where that scan is. Actually, the scan goes down on the 4th of the Zerg base, but realizes that it's not even taken because those rocks aren't even touched yet. As +2 attack being produced by our Zerg player, and there is no commitment to... Actually, 2-2's ability to be taken just got started. 2 Widow Mines get taken out for no cost so far. And like I said, Marines don't trade very well whenever there is extremely small amount of Marines. And this is going to allow Asylum just to say, I'm going to kill missile turrets now and try to end this game a little bit quicker because there's just no Marines. There is Cloaked Banshees, there was 3 CCs being taken, and there was just, no Marines whatsoever, no barracks taken at all. And even, the standard, build a couple Hellions, build a couple... Reapers or whatever to waste all that extra gas that delays all the Marine production. And that's why this build is being successful right now, because there's so many other gas intensive things that put the minerals behind, and the SCVs really lacked out. So 6 Mutalisks are being created as the natural CC just got taken out, and the third CC is trying to get back into position so he can use his mules immediately and take as much money as possible from that base, as they preemptively got muled. And now the Marines are in position, and there is 1 upgrades for the Marines. So Flash is definitely trying to stay in the game by mass producing Marines at this point. He does scan this time the other 4th, and he does see the hatchery in position. So he realizes, he's really, really far behind. He needs to make something happen. He needs to do some sort of counterattack, get a couple of medevacs, and go on, the far left part of the map, try to draw these Mutalisks out of position, maybe even, not have anything inside of the medevac whatsoever. He needs to try to, find some sort of edge instead of just, taking a lot of damage from his missile turrets and losing a few Marines. He's constantly losing Marines. And he's got his missile turret ready to go, but... the +2 Mutalisks, which are done in literally a second, are actually a little bit more effective than a Marine or 2 if they're actually caught out of position. So a few more Marines actually taken from the Nat, as the drone count shows that it's 83 once again. Tons of drones for a Zerg player, but none of them are actually being punished because of the fact that this early Muta build is just being so overwhelming, as 26 Banelings are being produced. GG gets called. Team2Pro takes the 3rd game of the series, or excuse me, 4th game. So, the build was not scouted. It wasn't scouted at all. Well, it was scouted at the last possible second, and Okay, so the build was scouted at last possible second. He didn't see the Spire, but he just like preemptively put down missile turrets. So that was good by him, but what he missed out on is that his Banshees didn't accomplish anything, and he had tried to go into a normal build behind that, whereas he put down the turrets. He didn't create any extra barracks behind that, and that's I think the extra barracks were the big thing, is that he built so many Banshees that he didn't have enough to actually transition into tech, so he's just like trying to play standard, like I was gonna take my upgrades and take my third CC behind that and go from there. But unfortunately, he didn't have enough money to actually produce Marines at that point, so that's why the Needles were doing so much damage at that stage of the game. So now we're going to go into our last map of the series for our 5 games total. This is going to be on Frost LE, and our 2 players are being established. And for Frost LE, Frost LE is huge. Holy cow, there's just stuff everywhere. There's 4 corners to this map. It's almost like Whirlwind. The only difference is I think there is... No, there's not. There's 4 parts of the map, so there's pretty much equal amount of bases. But the only difference is there's 2 watchtowers in the center. So there's a little bit more visibility, and there's a little bit more open airspace in the center of the map, unlike Whirlwind, which was actually no airspace in the center of the map. The airspace is more on the kind of those edges or the sides of the map, so that way they can actually be blocked in terms of ground units being able to go over there. But on this map, especially if it's like cross positions, there's a huge amount of time it takes to actually get across the map because of how big it is. So it usually takes a while, slower moving units are actually a little more challenging to get across the map. And once again, I'm going to shout out to our Extra Life fundraiser that we'll be holding on Saturday. We're going to have several games that will be played in an attempt to raise money for that charity. I think it's going to be StarCraft 2, League of Legends, Dota 2, Borderlands, World of Warcraft, and also Hearthstone that will be played. So we're going to have several players who are going to be doing giveaways in the process of that. Those will be done every couple hours. So come join us and donate for this organization, so that way it can better achieve its goals in terms of its mission. It looks like our second player has just been established. So if I do a little bit of investigating, so that way I can... Oh no, I can't guess against level 90. Wow. And we'll actually be having a tournament going on over the course of the team, our Extra Life sponsor. We're going to have a 6-hour tournament, and we're going to have ECS or ESC Goody Bean playing during that tournament. So he's the Terran player that is commonly known for going mech and just specializing in that. And we have lots of players that are like that. So that'll be one of the advantages of actually showing up to that and watching our games played for that. And for our game that we're casting right now, it looks like one of our players has joined our lobby, and I'm trying to figure out what the other one is. As the other player is currently, we're gonna need a few minutes for him. So I think now would be a good time to do our one last Carbot commercial. All right, so we're currently back in our top dog. We're currently on the last game. We're waiting for our last player to join, but we're on our last game. This last possible chance for players to get any sort of points going on, and this is our fifth part of the series. These players that we just had through 4 games total of 8 players, and this is going to be the last chance that they have to get points. So for the map that we're going to be playing on, it's going to be Frost, and one of our players has been established. He's going to be a Terran player, while the other one we are currently not known of. But if you want to, advertise your own player, you can actually do so by going onto the Thunderdog website. We even have our different links that you go through, whether it's YouTube, whether it's Twitter, or whether it's Facebook, so you can find out more things that are going on within Thunderdogs itself. And if you want to create your own team and have your own games played against other players of North America, even in Europe, you can actually do it too. You can create your own team and submit it through the website itself. And we start this up in January if you would like to do so. So that way you can actually get your games playing and get practice against players that are, organized, scheduled, and then, consistent, go through the process like we're going through right now. This is all, just we have all of our players lined up, so that way each player can go in and play their games, and then we can easily go into the next one. There is no long, intensive waiting besides the players that, doing things within the channel or whatever. But that's the incentive of not having to, pull players from the other side of the world and say, you need to fly over here to our country and play your games. Some tournaments are like that, where they'll, force you to do online qualifiers and then go from there. And then, for the best 16 or best of 8, they'll be like, you need to fly over here so you can advertise, our products or whatever and stuff like that. So it'll make it easier for them to actually see, the players there to visualize that. And we're going to be doing it looks like a TVT on Frost LE, and both players confirmed that they're good to go and they're totally ready to do this, and I am totally ready to do this. And the countdown has gone underway. All right, so like I said, we're going to be doing a TVT on Frost LE. This is probably going to be the most intense thing I will ever do, because if this lasts as long as I think it's going to last, that's definitely going to be really, 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 really fun. On the bottom right corner of the map, we have our Team Elite player. His name is Baby Wrath. And on the bottom left corner of the map, our Team2Pro player, his name is Aiden. So similar to the maps that I've been trying to preach and preach and preach, players are going to have to, go in there and try to find their advantages, try to get their, their tech established and do something with it. In this case, for this matchup, it's going to be really focused on whether it's getting, Hellions inside of the base, whether it's getting Banshees inside of the base, whether it's, taking a really good engagement and realizing that you have a really good engagement established, or even, in the late game where it's you have your siege tanks established, you have your mines or your marines established, and you're starting to build up that extra bank, so to speak, and you try to transition to whether it's BCs, whether it's Ravens, some sort of much more buff unit, while actually being have a really good sense and understanding that you don't want to just go straight into BCs or whatever and then say that's a feasible strategy or anything. Trying to take the right call on when to do that would make the game a lot more easier to win instead of just saying I'm going to make this one unit in mass and hope that works. As we see the Reaper build being created by Aiden. So if he actually gets a really good scout and he actually just goes from there, he can actually do huge damage against the builder that's being established a little bit later, gassed by Baby Wrath in this case. I'm not going to just say Terran player because both players are Terrans. It's actually going to make this a little bit more specific. So the SCV does scout it, and he's really going to be pinpointing the gas in this case to verify how early it was taken. So in comparison to himself, he's taken it off by 60. So he knows that he's already got the capability of building the first Reaper immediately from that barracks. So he's actually going to try to steal some minerals in the process of that. And a Marine already being produced, no immediate reactor being taken, so he needs to be able to defend against this Reaper early on by getting several Marines out, and a factory actually being produced instead of a Reaper. He's immediately going to go into Marine production, and he is going to scout this, unfortunately, because he has nothing to respond from. And this SCV is a total bully. He's taking minerals, he's killing SCVs, he's even damaging them. Well, he hasn't killed any SCVs yet, but this guy's a total pain. He's just going to get out of there now. Good timing from him instead of getting sniped off by the Marine. So the couple Marines actually stopped Marine production because he thought that there was going to be a Reaper, but unfortunately there's not. So the scouting SCV was actually pretty effective in terms of figuring out that it wasn't a Reaper and not just totally committing to making Marines against it while a starport actually is being produced. This is what I was talking about. It's a good example of, immediately taking your gas and hoping that your opponent doesn't build an engineering bay, but that's the thing you're trying to verify that actually goes on, because so many players are, going into there and saying, I need to test things out, make sure I can get kills or whatever, but similarly, I feel like both players are going to go into the same build and say, I'm both going to make Banshees. But in this case, Aiden is actually making a Widow Mine, whereas Baby Wrath is actually taking a tech lab, so he's going to go into tech lab into his starport. And in this case, Aiden is going to be doing a Widow Mine drop, while Baby Wrath is actually going to be doing, I think it's going to be Cloak Banshees by him. So both players have a little bit of a difference in how they want to perform their initial part of the build, and both of them are going to require the same response, saving their scans. Are they going to build an engineering bay? Are they going to scout it and figure that out? And that's what the Reaper will do. It'll actually get you inside the base earlier to see if you can accomplish seeing that and try not to, play delivery. And as I say that, instead of the Banshee being produced, there's actually a Raven being produced. And as I say that, Aiden decides to actually immediately go for a Cloak Banshee behind that. So Aiden is just going to go half across the map and say, I've got my Marines in position, I'm taking my forward CC, and I'm going to drop my Widow Mine and hope there's no detection, and there goes the Widow Mine. It isn't a decent spot, but the other Widow Mine is actually a decent spot, but the energy cost is at 55. So he has the ability to actually scan this, but the Widow Mine does tons of damage, and there's a medevac here just totally healing. And those runes are just going to be picked away. Surprisingly enough, no scans were committed as a mule gets dropped. So he's just totally confident he's going to be able to deal with this. Those Widow Mines are just at, 10 health already. I don't know how much health they have specifically, but I'm just going to guess that red means 10. And this Banshee is just going to go half across the map. Since he does recognize that there is no missile turrets established, the Banshee may actually do tons of damage now. But there is a Raven, so if that's in the right spot, that actually can make a difference too. So there's the reason why no scans were being created. So these Widow Mines are actually a little bit of a decoy now, because he's like, hey, let's kill that Widow Mine, and then realize, hey, there's actually a Banshee coming in from the other side, so here comes the kill count We're currently at 0, and there's already a tab established as the Marines are like, I need to get all the way over here. 3 kills so far for this Banshee, and the scan's going to go down, but unfortunately the Raven is already in position. It has 15 health, but you know what? That 15 health still means it's performing as a detector, and it holds off the Banshee that could have done a ton of damage. So good use of unit control by Aiden in terms of trying to throw the units of Baby Wrath off guard by showing the Widow Mine, but then just going in an off-the-wall direction with it. And here comes yet another Banshee. Since there's only one Raven, I think he's going to need to pull a scan out of this. Otherwise, he's going to lose a ton of SCVs. And the one Banshee does get one SCV kill, but unfortunately that Raven's not in the right position. And you have to remember, there's still this Widow Mine here. It could barely be seen if you look at his vision, if he ever walks over there. But the second Banshee going underway. While in Aiden's base, he is taking a CC and also getting another barracks. Actually, he's at 3 CC already, so he's at a huge advantage at this point. Wouldn't mind getting to position, but at the same time, this missile turret is about to get done. First scan gets exposed as not only did the Viking kill one of the Banshees, but the other Banshee got taken out by scan. So really good defense by Baby Wrath. He's actually not lost too much from that. But according to the resource count, Red is actually hugely ahead because he was able to make 2 CCs and even a siege tank behind that or 2. And he's immediately going into mass barracks production behind that. So not only is he ahead in the siege tank count, but he's also ahead in the SCV count. So really good position for Team2Pro so far because of all the harass that he was doing in the start of that game. And the medevac is actually going to go all the way back because it's already accomplished what it does. And this is what I was talking about, more stuff going on. Aiden is actually going to do a Marine drop in the process of that because he realizes, you know, I need to constantly do damage. I need to get ahead in this game. I'm not going to wait until I have 200 supply before I start doing things. I'm going to wait until I have, you know, 72 supply. And here we go. For the next attack, he's going to drop 8 Marines. He may not necessarily commit to them, but I think he's just trying to tax his player into, you know, not doing as many commands. If he's able to get more of his SCVs mining a little bit longer because he's got an advantage already. He's going to be able to, you know, in the process of that, try to kill a few SCVs by catching him off guard. And here it goes. Even his units are being out of position at this point, as they have to go all the way inside of the base. SCVs get pulled. There's even a siege tank that could be caught off guard, but unfortunately, he's just going to get out of there. And as I say that, he kills 2 SCVs, and he does not take too much damage. Here comes the Seeker missile, as it barely gets dodged. That Raven just, you know, got repaired, but it still is not, you know, it's not going to die yet. So good defense by both players so far. Nothing being lost. Very minor losses, if anything. As the third CC is now going to be floated over. In fact, it's going to be a forward third CC, but unfortunately, it's not going to be a PF, as there's going to be a huge supply lead for Red. And in terms of upgrades, both players are getting +1 at the same time, so there's not too much of a difference. It's more so of the economy difference right now. And this Marine is going to scout this attack force that's going across the map. He's going to realize, oh man, I see it coming. I'm even going to scan right there because I thought there was a Cloak Banshee right there. And I think that was Red Scan, actually. Yeah, it was Red Scan, just to verify what was going on. So he has a siege tank already in position. Even an initial hit going on, and he's even trying to press the matter because he realizes that he has a ton of units that forces a siege, but he realizes that I'm not going to commit those units to that. I'm just going to waste his time by sieging right there and then forcing him to fall back. Like I said, a really huge lead right now by Team2Pro. He's got his third established now. He's even muling it as an army being produced right now and a second engineering bay for him. And his opponent is barely getting his couple racks, and he's kind of in the same position. He's getting his second engineering bay, but I think he's missing his armoring in this case. So more Marines, supply leads is getting even more in favor of Team2Pro because he's able to abuse the fact that he has all these established as a forward sensor tower in a really good position to detect if there are any sort of counterattacks going on in the bottom right portion of the map. So the Blues Armory is now being produced, and siege tanks, there's even a scan going on. I'm trying to figure out what the scan is. Yeah, he's just trying to verify what's going on. He just has a ton more composition. He realized that he needs to, you know, do something with this composition. Red just was able to do all that stuff at the beginning of the game, and get away with it, basically. And that's what's going to force a loss, so to speak. Another scan. This is going to be the war of the scans now, because both players are going to constantly figure out what's going on, what's doing what. And that's why we do these sensor towers. They create these sensor towers to predict where things are going. So as soon as they go inside of this line, they're going to see where the drop coming in. As red's going to be the one that's going to be doing the drop in this case. And we're going to figure out if he's going to be able to hold this off, because his army's out of position. He may even commit to this too. So he does scan it, and he is multi-scanning, and he is going in, and he's just going out. And he does realize now his base is under attack. This is actually going to hit a ton of production at this point, as GG gets called. Team2Pro takes that game. So like I was saying at the start of the match, both players need to accomplish something at the start of the game. In this case, Aiden was able to kill about 7 SCVs, and also while he was doing that, he was taking 2 CCs. And then he didn't lose too much. He didn't even get counterattacked. So he was able to reap that advantage at that point, because there was no SCVs being produced. And what Baby Wrath needed to do behind that, he either needed to forward pressure, he needed to be able to use the units that he built really early on, whether it was the Raven energy, whether it's a turret or whatever, and in the base, he needed to do something to get himself back in the game, because he should have recognized that that did a ton of damage. Even though it was only S7 SCVs, the fact that he took his CC behind that and he was really vulnerable, it's just he was able to get away with that and just go from there. So that concludes the series. It looks like, if I look at my paper again, Team2Pro took that game 4-1. In this case, they get 5 points. And that goes to their total of, I think it's 31 then. And that's their standing so far. This has been the Top Dog Season 1, Week 8. Once again, I'm going to plug our social media up above. If you would like to keep tabs with us and follow what we're doing, just check out those links. And remember, we have our Extra Life fundraiser that we're going to be doing, so we're not done with any sort of events. So we're still going on, we're still chugging away, so to speak, and that will be happening on November 2nd throughout the entire day. So come check us out then. We're going to be streaming all types of games. But other than that, my name is Blaze Moose. I appreciate everybody watching tonight, and I'll see you guys later.